Hey boys and girls, guess what? Today is the first day of June. We're almost there. We can do it, boys and girls. Today is Monday, June 1st, 2020. If you look at your assignments today, you're going to be reading a passage called The Early History of Flight and answering the comprehension questions. You're going to read to self and fill out that stop and jot form. Complete your 10 minutes of iReady reading. Complete the next lesson on Zearn, which is actually a new module today, so I'll talk to you about that in just a minute. Complete your multiplication facts on extramath.org and complete 10 minutes of iReady Math. Let's first start off with your reading assignments. If you look, you're going to be reading something today called The Early History of Flight, and I'm going to pull that up for you. So this is what it looks like. We're talking about sequence, and if you remember from the beginning of the year, boys and girls, sequencing is when we put things in order. In this case, we're talking about over time. Okay, so I'm going to teach you a little trick today. If you read the questions first before you read the passage, sometimes it'll help you when you come to answer the questions a little later on. So, question number 2. Based on the first paragraph, what did the first flying machine look like? So as you're reading the first paragraph, be thinking about what did the first flying machine look like. Question number 3. What materials were used to build the first flying machine in 1853? And based on the text, what is the meaning of the word rigid? So let's see if we can find those while we're reading today. Here we go. The early history of flight. The earliest records of human flight date back more than 1,000 years before Orville and Wilbur Wright invented the airplane in 1903. The first flying machines somewhat look like today's hang gliders. Let me read that again. The first flying machines somewhat look like today's hang gliders. The wings didn't flap or bend. They were straight and rigid. Straight and rigid. The flying machines were built to soar like eagles, not flap like other birds. In, I think it says 853. I'm wondering if they meant 1853. A Muslim astronomer named Abbas ibn Firnas built the world's first flying machine. He was 70 years old. He made the wings out of bamboo, tied together by strips of silk. Then he covered it with eagle feathers. He strapped himself in with a harness. According to records, he took off from a cliff and stayed airborne for several minutes. Unfortunately, Furness couldn't slow down for his landing and crashed. He survived the crash but was seriously injured. There are records of 2 other early glider flights. In 1005, a British monk named Elmer of Malmesbury jumped off a tall tower. He glided for about 10 seconds before crashing and breaking both his legs. The next was a Turkish scientist named Hesarfen. We'll say C, because it's okay if we can't pronounce their names. We'll just say their first letter of their name. In 1638, C jumped off a tower. He traveled 2 miles across a body of water and successfully landed on the other side. The first hot air balloon was invented in 1783 by French brothers Joseph Michel and Jacques Antoine Montgolfier. The first balloon passengers weren't people. They were a sheep, a duck, and a rooster. The animal test flights happened in September of 1783. 2 months later, on November 21st, the first manned balloon flight was launched. They flew over 20 minutes over Paris. Okay, boys and girls, remember back up here, I wasn't sure if this was 853 or 1853. I believe it was 853 because 853 would come before 1638 and 1783, where 1853 would come after. So this paragraph would be down here if it was the other way around. See how I sequenced to figure that out based on my time order? Okay, so let me continue. Hot air balloons could fly, but they couldn't be steered. In 1852, French inventor H.G. built an airship. His balloon was shaped more like a skinny football. It was powered by a steam engine. It also had a wheel like a boat for steering. Between 1891 and 1896, O.L., a German engineer, designed 18 different gliders. Over those 5 years, L flew his gliders almost 2,000 times. During his final flight, he got caught in a strong wind. He lost control of his glider, crashed and was killed. Before inventing the airplane, the Wright brothers designed 3 gliders of their own. Gliders do not have engines. When they designed their airplane, they added an engine. On December 17, 1903, the Wright brothers flew the first airplane in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Did you also notice, boys and girls, that instead of me trying to figure out some of these names, which I'm sure I did not pronounce correctly, what I started doing was just saying the first letter of their name, okay? Now, I also wanted to go back here and I wanted you to look at the pictures, take a peek. And do you remember what the text feature is that's right underneath the picture? If you guessed caption, you're correct. This is a caption. The first hot air balloon flight in 1783. So this is a picture of the first hot air balloon flight. And then down here, this picture says, the caption says, first engine powered flight, 120 feet in 12 seconds. So there's that picture. Okay, so now if you go down to the questions, they should be a little bit easier. Based on the first paragraph, what did the first flying machine look like? Was it a hot air balloon, today's hang gliders, an airplane, or flapping bird wings? Do you remember in the first paragraph when I reread this line? The first flying machine somewhat looked like today's hang gliders? That should help you answer that question. What materials were used to build the first flying machine? So you're going to come back, and it should say, it says 1853 in your question. I believe they're looking for 853. So if you come back up here, it says in 853, a Muslim astronomer named AIF built the world's first flying machine. He was 70 years old. He made the wings out of bamboo tied together with strips of silk. Then he covered it with eagle feathers. He strapped himself in with a harness. According to the records, he took off from a cliff and stayed airborne for several minutes. But unfortunately, F couldn't slow down for his landing and crash. He survived the crash, but was seriously injured. So what one of these tells us what materials he used? Did he use an engine? Did he use a balloon shaped like a skinny football? Wood and canvas, or bamboo, strips of silk, and eagle feathers? Okay, and I'll try to fix that question for when you guys do it today. And based on the text, what is the meaning of the word rigid? Does it mean bendable, flap like a bird, straight, doesn't bend, or to soar like an eagle? So go back up and find that word rigid. It should be in bold, and see if you can answer that question. Okay, boys and girls, without taking up too much more of your time, let's get back to the slides. So you know you have to read for 20 minutes, complete that stop and jot form, do your iReady reading minutes, and then come down here and you're going to start a new lesson on Zearn today. Your new lesson on Zearn today is going to be on picture graphs, okay? And it's really neat because they're doing ice cream on Zearn, and that's Mrs. Smith's favorite. If you need help with any of that, just let me know. But I do want to tell you, boys and girls, that when you go to click on, they're going to have you actually put ice cream onto a graph. You need to hold your mouse over the category. So like if it's chocolate ice cream, if you hold your mouse just above it, it'll show a little plus sign. If you hit the plus sign, it'll pop up an ice cream. Okay, that was a little bit confusing for me, but I know you guys should be able to figure that out. And last but not least, make sure you check out the resource page today. If you need help with sequencing, there's a sequencing YouTube video. If you want to check out more on airplanes, there's Why Can't Airplanes Fly into Space? It's a mystery science video. Are aliens real? To kind of go along with our space from last week. And then in math, you can get some help with picture graphs and, of course, bar graphs, which will be later this week. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time this Monday morning. I hope you had a wonderful weekend, and I can't wait to see you all tomorrow. Bye, boys and girls.